Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to congratulate the Premier on finding both his voice and his feet today. Oh, that his federal cousins would come more often, that he could show off. Mr. Speaker, the government has refused to give any details on their deal to privatize extramural. I wonder if the government will be kind enough to share details on their carbon tax script. So far, we have a no-tax tax announced on Tuesday, followed by the Premier flying to Ottawa for a party Wednesday. By the way, the opposition stopped the Premier from billing it to the taxpayers. Then on Thursday, we have the federal minister on Facebook saying the Gallant carbon plan may be a low bid. We can't help but wonder what's coming next. Will Ottawa be cast as the bad guy in this play? Is that the next page of this carbon tax script?
The Honourable Premier.
Monsieur le Président, les changements climatiques sont en effet le défi le plus important qui fait face à l'humanité en ce moment. Alors oui, le Canada a besoin de faire plus. Tous les pays autour du monde ont besoin de faire plus, Monsieur le Président, pour combattre les changements climatiques. Et cela inclut le Nouveau-Brunswick. Et nous sommes très fiers d'avoir présenté un plan qui va nous aider à faire justement ça, Monsieur le Président, avec au-delà de 100 actions concrètes pour assurer que nous sommes en train de combattre les changements climatiques et participer avec le pays en assurant que nous allons faire ça de façon où on va quand même voir une croissance économique importante. Monsieur le Président, nous avons dit depuis le début que nous allions avoir un programme, un régime pour mettre un prix sur le carbone ici dans la province, qui allait respecter les réalités économiques ici dans notre province, Monsieur le Président. Et je peux vous dire que nous avons travaillé fort et nous faisons en sorte que les grandes entreprises vont payer qu'est-ce qu'ils devront payer, Monsieur le Président, et qu'il n'y aura aucun impact sur les consommateurs ici dans la province.
The federal minister may have a slightly different take on the Premier's statements. The Gallant government put out Act 1 of their carbon tax script on Tuesday without even announcing that they were going to do it. Then the Premier flew off to Ottawa for a Liberal holiday party. Again, I will mention that the opposition stopped him from billing his party plane to the taxpayers of New Brunswick. On Wednesday night, the Federal Environment Minister tweeted a picture of herself with the Premier at a party. Then on Thursday, the same federal minister posted that the NB plan may be not acceptable. May be not acceptable. Did the Premier help her write her Facebook post before he flew back from Ottawa?
The Honourable Premier.
The logic of his argument makes no sense, Mr. Speaker, so what I'll do is I'll talk about how we worked hard to have a made in New Brunswick price on carbon that respects our economic realities, challenges and opportunities, Mr. Speaker. And I can tell you that our plan is well thought out because we worked with New Brunswickers to develop it. Mr. Speaker, we're going to ask large businesses that are the larger emitters in the province to pay their fair share. Mr. Speaker, we're going to ensure there's no impact on consumers. We already increased the gas tax, as you're aware, Mr. Speaker. It's higher than the Alberta gas tax, Mr. Speaker, that is being used by the federal government to develop the backstop. We are going to be making major investments in energy efficiency, Mr. Speaker, so we can continue to play our role to fight and combat climate change. And we will dedicate parts of the gas tax, Mr. Speaker, and increasing amounts over time to energy efficiency investments that will help ensure we're reducing our emissions in the province. And yes, Mr. Speaker, we will phase out coal by 2030, ensuring that we still have jobs in the region.
Member for Fredericton, York.
The Premier certainly does know about taxes. Under his stewardship, we're now the highest tax jurisdiction in North America. Mr. Speaker, when we ponder what the next act in the carbon tax script will be, one possibility seems too ridiculous to even consider, but I must ask, Mr. Speaker, in the next act of the carbon tax script, one where the Premier is it going to be one where the Premier is standing up to Ottawa? Because we really haven't seen any of that out of this Premier. Because if it is, let me just say that kite won't fly. And it won't fly on the taxpayer's dime. The Premier was told by Ottawa to take the health transfer deal, just like he was told to do their bidding on cannabis. Is the final act of the carbon tax script one where New Brunswickers have less money in their pockets? pocket. Can the minister provide some information to this House instead of outside the House, as he so often does, on what the next step will be?
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, we have known from the beginning that the federal government will assess all of the price on carbon mechanisms that are being put in place across the country, and we very much welcome that, Mr. Speaker. And yes, we will stand up for this price on carbon mechanism during that process. Mr. Speaker, when the federal government will look at the collective of carbon pricing mechanisms across the country, they will see that we here in New Brunswick are getting our large emitters to pay a fair share. We are getting a price on carbon that will be dedicated to making major investments in energy efficiency, which will help us ensure we meet our targets, which we have already met and we hope to actually exceed, Mr. Speaker. And they will see that we do indeed have a price on carbon to try to curb behavior, where we have a higher gas and diesel tax than the province of Alberta, which was the jurisdiction they looked at to develop the backstop. And Mr. Speaker, we will continue to not only exceed and hit the 2030 targets by the federal government and the Paris Agreement, we're going to do so all the while growing the economy, Mr. Speaker.